a clever businessman. In a small English town, the marketplace was alive. Stalls of bread, cheese, and bright fabrics stretched down the cobbled street. The air was filled with the sound of bells, chatter, and horse hoofs. But in the middle of the crowd stood one man. His name was Mr. Henry Carter. People knew him as a clever businessman. His stall looked plain. Only a few jars of golden honey rested on a wooden table. Nothing fancy compared to the colorful shops around him. One chilly morning, the sky darkened. Gray clouds rolled in over the rooftops. The smell of rain filled the air. The market grew uneasy. Shoppers pulled their coats tight. Traders rushed to cover their goods. But Henry Carter stayed still. He looked calm, confident, almost mysterious. The first drops of rain pattered on the stones. Then came the thunder, a deep, rolling crack that made children cling to their parents. The ground turned slick with water. The market shook with noise and panic. But Henry's honey jars stood uncovered. Rain splashed against the glass. People gasped. "His stock will be ruined," whispered a baker. "Why is he not covering them?" asked a shoemaker. Then Henry slowly lifted one jar. Golden honey glistened under the stormy sky. Even in the rain, it sparkled as if lit from within. The sweetness glowed brighter against the gray. It looked magical. The marketplace fell silent. Every eye fixed on those shining jars. Henry's lips curled into a knowing smile. The trap he had set was working. Rain poured harder. Water dripped from the rooftops and ran in small streams along the cobbled street. The air smelled sharp and cold. Merchants fought to keep their goods dry. But Henry Carter stood tall, his jars uncovered. The honey glowed brighter with each drop of rain. Golden liquid, thick and rich, pressed against the glass. Even children gasped as they saw the jars shining like treasure. Then Henry raised his voice. Strong, clear, calm against the storm. "This is no ordinary honey," he declared. "This is the only honey that shines through the rain." The crowd leaned closer. Men, women, children, everyone froze where they stood. Their eyes reflected the golden glow of the jars. The smell of sweetness mixed with the damp air. It was comforting, almost magical. A butcher stepped forward first, his hands rough from work. He placed a coin on Henry's table. "I will take one," he said firmly. Then a woman in a blue shawl stepped forward. Her face lit with wonder. "I want one for my children." Soon the silence broke. Voices rose together. "I want one. Give me two. Save a jar for me." The storm raged. But Henry's stall became the brightest place in the market. Coins clinked. Jars vanished one after another. The clever businessman sold everything, every last drop. And when the rain finally stopped, the crowd realized the shock. Every merchant had hidden their goods. Every stall looked dull and empty. Only Henry had turned the storm into his greatest chance. When the clouds cleared, the marketplace was drenched. Water dripped from the edges of canvas stalls. The air carried the sharp smell of rain mixed with bread, leather, and wet stone. Henry Carter packed the last empty jar into his wooden crate. His stall, once plain, was now the only one empty, because he had sold everything. Children gathered near, their eyes wide with wonder. One small boy tugged at Henry's coat. "Sir," he asked softly, "why did you leave your honey in the rain?" Everyone thought it would be ruined. Henry knelt, so his eyes met the boy's. The golden light of the jars was gone now, but his smile held the same warmth. "Sometimes," he said gently, "when others hide from trouble, an opportunity hides inside it." The boy tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Henry pointed to the other stalls. The bakers, the shoemakers, the butchers, all had covered their goods. Their stalls looked dark and lifeless in the storm, but his jars had glistened. His stall had drawn every eye. "The rain made my honey shine brighter," Henry explained. "While others feared the storm, I saw a chance to show something no one would forget." The boy's eyes lit up with understanding. "So, you turned a problem into your strength?" Henry nodded. "That is what makes a businessman clever. Not gold, not tricks, but the courage to see light in the dark." The townsfolk around him murmured with respect. Some smiled. Some nodded. They knew they had witnessed more than a sale. They had seen wisdom at work. The sun broke through the clouds. Golden rays spilled over the soaked market, making puddles glisten like silver coins. Children splashed in the water, their laughter breaking the heavy silence left by the storm. Henry Carter stood, brushing the rain from his coat. He looked at the townsfolk gathered around him, faces young and old, eyes filled with curiosity and respect. He raised his voice once more. "Remember this day," he said firmly. "Do not fear the storm. Fear the chance you might lose if you hide from it." The shoemaker nodded slowly. The baker's wife held her basket tighter. Even the butcher, strong and stern, bowed his head in thought. Henry lifted his empty crate and placed it on his shoulder. His stall was bare, but his lesson had filled the marketplace. Every person there carried it home in their hearts. As he walked down the cobbled street, the crowd parted. Some whispered, some smiled, and a little boy's voice called after him, bright and sure, "Mr. Carter, one day I will be clever like you." Henry paused, glanced back with a knowing smile, and simply said, "Be honest, be brave, and the rest will follow." The marketplace returned to its rhythm. But the story of that stormy morning never left the town. The tale of the clever businessman spread from one mouth to another. And long after the honey was gone, his wisdom continued to shine.